Ahoy, digital world, and welcome back once again to another Spliced In Later, where today we are bringing you yet another movie review. Wonderful year 2021, much better than 2020, I guess, for movies. Not necessarily for everything else that's going on in the world, it's pretty shit. But in terms of actually having movies coming out, getting to talk about them, there's been a wonderful amount this year, and we get to talk about another one for you again. And this one is an interesting one. This one is something that has been on my radar, obviously, has bounced about in terms of its being release date. For a while it was delayed, and then it was pushed back, and then it was pushed up, which is either a good indication or a bad indication. But even finding a session to see this film turned out to be harder than I expected. Maybe because finally movies have more real estate and it's harder to fit everything in. I mean, at the moment, looking at my local cinema, they've got Black Widow, Fast and Furious, Space Jam, some other movies. You know, there's a lot going in there, but I had to actually really hunt for a session to go and see this movie, and I also had to hunt to find people who actually wanted to see this movie with me. So I don't know, maybe this one is something that no one cares about. Maybe they don't want to hear a review about this one, but you're going to get it anyway. We are reviewing today the movie Snake Eyes, or apparently Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins, which I hate. I hate that that's on there. I'm not going to call it that after this point. I feel like it's been slapped on there just because the people behind the movie panicked and went, maybe people won't know that Snake Eyes is from the G.I. Joe universe, so we'll put G.I. Joe Origins on there so people will go, oh, it's a G.I. Joe movie. Okay, then I guess I want to go to that one because the G.I. Joe movies in the past have been so successful and so critically received. It's an absolute banger to put butts in seats. Plus, seeing something like that just harkens back to the old days of X-Men Origins Wolverine, with this whole plan of, oh, we're going to make a whole bunch of X-Men movies. If they think they're going to make a bunch of G.I. Joe origin movies, I think they're much too hopeful for their own good. So anyway, I'm just going to call it Snake Eyes. From this point on, that's it. Now, the G.I. Joe films, I have to say right off the bat, I don't know much about G.I. Joe. I'm aware of it as a concept. I know that it's G.I. Joe, the all-American hero, or whatever it is. The PSA stuff, from what I can see from history and whatever, it's kind of like a slash between Captain Planet in terms of PSA messages and trying to teach children to do the right thing, but also this huge American propaganda thing in terms of America first, American heroes, American hero will save the day, and also stuff about how, oh, we want boys to play with dolls, but not Barbie dolls, so we got to bring in G.I. Joe, because G.I. Joe is for the boys, it's a boys thing, which all of that just doesn't sit well with me. But in terms of the movies, I don't think they were that bad. I have no idea. The first movie, G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra, came out in 2009. I didn't see that in the movie theaters, but I did see it on video and DVD afterwards, and I had a fine enough time with it. It was a wacky movie for sure, full of a lot of wacky characters, which I enjoyed with the funny code names that they all had. It was my first introduction to Channing Tatum, and I thought he was really good. I really enjoyed seeing some of my favorite actors in the film, like Christopher Eccleston and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It was fun. I heard people hated it. I don't know if they hated it because it wasn't faithful to the G.I. Joe's history. If there is such a thing, who cares? But I also think maybe it just wasn't a great movie. I haven't gone back to watch the G.I. Joe movie in quite some time. It may not have aged well. I may be remembering it differently because I was younger and dumber when I saw a lot of movies. But I also went and saw the sequel, which came out in 2013, G.I. Joe Retaliation, which had The Rock in it, or Dwayne Johnson, whatever you want to call him. I also didn't mind that one. I was confused by it because it seemed like it wanted to be a sequel to Rise of Cobra, but it also wanted to do its own thing because Rise of Cobra hadn't been too successful. So they continued on some of the storylines and they brought over some of the characters, but otherwise they completely rebooted it and did their own thing. And again, it was a fine enough movie. I thought Dwayne Johnson was fun, as he always is in most of his movies. My favorite characters from Rise of Cobra that I ended up really liking came back for Retaliation, and it at least settled the cliffhangery ending of the first G.I. Joe. It resolved that one. So at least for all intensive purposes, they did that, which was okay. But then I never really thought about G.I. Joe ever again. I heard talks that a third film was coming. It may still be coming. I don't know. But I moved on with my life. And here we are 8 years later, and they're making a third G.I. Joe movie that's not a sequel, but a prequel, but also a reboot about one of the characters called Snake Eyes, which was a smart move, I think, because the main thing that I really liked about those G.I. Joe films were the characters Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. They were the most interesting ones. If you are unfamiliar with G.I. Joe, you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Snake Eyes in those movies was a mysterious assassin who had taken a vow of silence and wore a complete head-to-toe black suit of armor with a sword. And he was the silent assassin for G.I. Joe, but his history was very deep and personal with a Cobra bad guy called Storm Shadow, who was basically the alternate to Snake Eyes. He wore white instead of black, but he at least didn't have a helmet on. We learnt through some flashbacks and things that Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow had grown up in the same clan, that they were rivals, that Storm Shadow was jealous of Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes was a white kid, I believe, that had been orphaned and brought into the clan or whatever. Storm Shadow did some bad things and killed some people, so Snake Eyes swore a vow of silence until he could get revenge on Storm Shadow. But they had a love-hate relationship sort of thing. They hated each other and they did want to kill each other, but somehow they always found reasons to spare each other's lives, or there was a potential that maybe there was good in Storm Shadow or honor, still hard to say. But they were definitely, I mean, with the choreograph, with the sword fighting and everything, they were the stuff that I went, this is the best part of these movies. So to make a movie specifically about Snake Eyes, and because you're making a movie about Snake Eyes, you've got to have Storm Shadow in it, I was very excited to see. And the trailers were surprisingly good. I remember going, I'll go see it. I don't expect it to look amazing. But then the trailer came out and I went, the action looks okay. It looks like an interesting story. Everybody looks like what they should. As I said, my knowledge of G.I. Joe is limited, so it's very easy to please me in terms of what things look like, but whatever. So I was very keen to go, and now I've seen it. And what do I think? What's my overall opinion of Snake Eyes? It is completely fine. It is interesting and fun in some places. It is perfectly servable as a movie, and in some instances, it is very frustrating and annoying. And the things that are frustrating and annoying are probably what is pivotal that would make this film a good film instead of an alright film. As you know, if you're a regular listener to this channel, I don't negatively trash movies too much. I try to be fair, but I try to focus on the positive. But I also have to critique films as I see them. I can't pretend that I loved films when I didn't. I only thought they were okay. So what we'll do here, we'll focus on the positives first, as per normal with this. In fact, we'll get completely out of the way. We'll do a brief plot summary of the film, as I always do, but spoiler-wise, we'll avoid. Snake Eyes is the origin of the Snake Eyes character. He's a guy. In this version of the movie anyway, he is a loner type. Apparently, he doesn't even know his own name. He lost his father at a young age. His father was killed, and he is always thinking about, one day I'm going to have revenge on the person that killed my dad. He is then swept up into the world of this clan. He is brought in by the character who will eventually become Storm Shadow, who in this version is a ally of Snake Eyes who becomes his mentor slash best friend slash loyal follower. Basically, they form this kind of blood brother pact where Storm Shadow brings Snake Eyes into the clan that he lives in, which is this mystical clan in Tokyo, which I guess have superpowers or guard superpowers. It wasn't exactly clear, but Storm Shadow is destined to lead the clan, and he wants to bring Snake Eyes in because Snake Eyes has existed in the real world, and he believes he can bring his view of that in to update the clan for the modern age. Of course, Snake Eyes, if he wants to be a part of the clan, has to pass a few trials. There's a wide variety of characters within the clan that teach him how to do these things. There's a character called Blind Master and another character called Hard Master. There's a leader of security, a girl whose name I do not recall, but they have a bit of a love-hate relationship because she doesn't trust him. There's clearly some romantic tension there going on. And Snake Eyes is still focused internally on his vengeance mission to a point where you don't really know if he wants to be a part of the clan or not, if he wants to be allies with these people, if he's using them for his own goals. Meanwhile, hovering above all of this is G.I. Joe and the evil organization Cobra, who are somehow involved in certain parts of the story. And also there is a Yakuza clan leader who used to be a part of the clan that Storm Shadow's in, and now for some reason wants to destroy the clan. I think he was excommunicated because he doesn't believe in their ways of non-violence and protection and all of that. So he's in there as well. There's a lot of toing and froing. People are after different things, which culminates in a lot of sword fights, a lot of action, a lot of betrayals or unbetrayals, a lot of references to things that I guess I'll never know because I don't know much about G.I. Joe and Cobra. It's very obvious when they are referencing things from those things because it stands out from the movie. So you will know something's up. Whether you understand is wholly dependent on how much you love or care about the G.I. Joe universe. Now, what's great about this film is the action. For something like Snake Eyes, a movie that was promised from seeing Snake Eyes in the old G.I. Joe movies, and I guess from seeing Snake Eyes on the cartoons and the action heroes or whatever, you want to see a lot of kicking, a lot of fighting, and a lot of sword fighting, and that is in here in spades. Especially the clan as well that he's hanging out with, Storm Shadow and the Masters. Everybody gets to do their own action stuff. The G.I. Joe and Cobra characters as well, they bring in their specific set of skills. So there's a lot of different types of action as well. Hand-to-hand combat, sword fighting, nunchucks, kicking, avoiding giant monsters, lasers, grenades. There's all of that stuff going on. It does take a little while to get to that point. It does have a very slow start to Snake Eyes, where there is a lot of talking and putting people into position to do the action scenes. But once they eventually, they get the burden of the story out of the way, then they focus on the action. And the action is pretty good. It's a lot of shaky cam, so that is a little annoying. But in terms of what you actually want from this movie, you get it. You get stabbing, you get kicking, you get all of that. And it looks pretty good. It doesn't look too fake or CGI or anything. I believe the actors in here are actually doing the martial arts and not just having CGI versions of them jumping around on a green screen, which is pretty good. What I also really liked about this film is the character of Storm Shadow and the clan that he is a part of and that world. It is a very interesting world. The Masters and their way of teaching people are interesting, and they have these little quirks that make them interesting. The Blind Master, I guess, can see, but he can't see because of his eyes, and his lessons are all about the heart and the soul. And the Hard Master comes off as this real tough, no-nonsense master who's all about fighting with fists and everything, but it turns out he leans towards more reasoning and that sort of stuff. But Storm Shadow is the hero of this movie, in my opinion. He was played very well. I believe the actor's name was Andrew Koji. I apologize if I got that wrong. But his character arc, seeing where he is at the start of the movie as somebody who is destined for greatness, but is also very wary of that greatness. It's very overwhelming. But everything he does in here, he does with good intentions and for the sake of the clan, and because he sees something in Snake Eyes, a brother or something like that. So he's very loyal to him and he trusts in him in a way that Snake Eyes really doesn't earn for a lot of the movie. Seeing where Storm Shadow ends up at the end of the movie is very heartbreaking, in my opinion, because a lot of the stuff that happens to him isn't really his fault. The way he reacts to things is very understandable. You completely relate to the character. So by the end of the movie, you go, I'm with you, man. I understand why you are now doing the things that you're doing, and I support it 100%. I will be clear that this movie also feels like it's supposed to be setting up a series of films. As I said, maybe it's a bunch of G.I. Joe Origin films or a bunch of Snake Eyes films. So it does feel like there's more to tell for Storm Shadow's story. But the chunk that they do tell in this story is very honorable and good and interesting, in my opinion. I really enjoyed his performance. I enjoyed the story arc he went on. And I would like to see more of that Storm Shadow, if possible, in other films. But the problem with this film, as I said, I wanted to start with a positive. There really wasn't that much, because there are some issues with this film. And the main issue, unfortunately, is the character of Snake Eyes himself. Now, Snake Eyes in this film is played by Henry Golding. I like Henry Golding. I think he's a very good actor. I've liked him in the things I've seen him in. He was very good in Crazy Rich Asians, and he was very good in The Gentleman. And I thought originally at the casting and the idea of him playing Snake Eyes, I was really intrigued by it. So I don't think that this is Henry Golding's fault in any way. I feel like he worked with the script he was given, the lines he was given, and the character arc he was given. But Snake Eyes in this film is an asshole, an absolute terrible person. He's very selfish. He's so burdened by this quest for vengeance that he's willing to make deals with bad guys and betray people who are legitimately his friends and good people, all for his own goals. I get that it's done to give a kind of twist on the hero's story for this movie. His intentions at the start of the film are very clear that he's out for number one, but he flips about and he sometimes seems like he's doing the honorable thing, but then he completely does a 180 and screws people over. He gets people stabbed, he gets people in trouble, he gets people excommunicated, he gets people killed in a lot of instances. And it takes about 2/3 of the movie before they start to go, oh no, Snake Eyes, he's doing the good stuff now. But at that point, you've lost any respect for him and you've lost any belief in him as a hero. I know this for a fact because I was thinking it during the movie. I was like, this guy sucks. Why isn't this the Storm Shadow movie? Because I don't want to follow this guy. And my friend who was watching it with me about 2/3 of the way, leaned over to me and said, I'm not really buying the whole Snake Eyes is the protagonist here or the hero. And I was like, good, yeah, I'm glad you're catching that because I agree with you 100%. I also have this weird thing going on as well. Snake Eyes, another appealing thing about him is the whole vow of silence. The vengeance mission makes him mysterious and interesting. I will say right off the bat here that the Snake Eyes outfit that you will of course have seen in the trailer is not in the movie till right at the end. He doesn't put it on. The shot of him putting the mask on is in the trailer, annoyingly. In my opinion, they should have just not bothered with it because it's jarring to see him in it. But when he does speak in the movie, it's very jarring and stiff and wooden. And I guess it's just Henry Golding working with what he's got. But whenever he opens his mouth, the things he says are dumb or pointless or rude. And there's this weird thing where Henry Golding's accent kept changing. They have this weird thing with the movie where Snake Eyes doesn't know his name. But when his father was killed, from what I could tell, Snake Eyes looked to be about 10 years old. So you're telling me he went 10 years without his dad telling him what his name was? That's weird. I don't understand that one. But yeah, so he goes from an Irish accent to an American accent to an English accent. Now, I don't know if that's Henry Golding just having trouble doing whatever accent he's trying to do, but it completely pulls you out of the movie because he starts off Irish, and by the end of the movie, he's not Irish, that's for sure. The other issue as well, unfortunately, is that because it's a G.I. Joe prequel, I understand this, they want to put the G.I. Joe characters and the Cobra characters into this movie, but it's completely jarring. For the most part, even though the movie is a bit slow, the actual story that they're telling with Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow and the clan training and all that is relatively interesting and engaging. That should have been the movie alone, but at some point in the movie, they suddenly throw Cobra in there as the evil organization that's also involved with the bad guys. And then the clan go, that's okay, we know this group called G.I. Joe, and they're good guys, and they're going to come help us out. And then you have two characters, one from Cobra, one from G.I. Joe, completely shoehorned into the movie. The G.I. Joe character is a joke. She shows up for a scene to say, oh yeah, I know of Cobra. Then she's not seen again until the end of the movie where she starts fighting. And then, of course, at the end where she says to Snake Eyes, oh, be a G.I. Joe. But all of that doesn't need to be in there. You can make a movie that exists in this world without forcing all of that in there. If it's not organic, don't do it. It is very jarring. Take it out. Let the movie exist on its own merit. Everything would be fine. You take out both the G.I. Joe and Cobra components, nothing would change. I truly promise you. Cobra ends up doing nothing in terms of what the villain from the Yakuza is doing, and G.I. Joe doesn't really do much except to shoot a gun a bit. And there's a really annoying bit where Snake Eyes says to the G.I. Joe character, Yo, Joe. Now, I know they say that in the movies, and I know that the G.I. Joe crew say it to each other, that's their tag, but why would he say that to her? He doesn't know that they say that. He doesn't know anything like that, and it's just one of those things that goes, oh, we have to have Yo Joe in here because this is a G.I. Joe movie world, so, there it is. I don't know if they expect the audience to go, oh, he said the thing, I'm so happy, but I don't think there's enough of a fan base angling for a G.I. Joe movie that would be waiting for the whole movie to even get that. I'm aware that Yo Joe is a thing. I don't care if they don't say it. Overall, yes, this unfortunately has been more negative than positive. On my drive home, I was trying to think, I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to mark this high as I normally do, and I'm going to say, for what it's worth, it's a good film. For what it's worth, it's a fine film. If you're looking for simple action, it is a movie that exists and it's something to go see. It does all right for what it's intending to do. It's a simple enough origin story that we've seen many times before, but it is worth checking out. Just if you're after the action, you'll get it. And I think the story of Storm Shadow and the acting by Andrew Koji and everything going on there is quite good. And I really liked that. So that's worth seeing. But overall, I can only give this movie a 5 out of 10, which is one of my lower scores. This will not be cracking my top 10 for this year. I don't know what I expected. It's not as bad as it could have been, but through the issue of a really unlikable protagonist and all that G.I. Joe Cobra stuff that was just so jarring and having a bit of a slow start, it's not something that I will be rushing to see again, and it's certainly not something that I will be recommending. I don't know how G.I. Joe fans will react, but of the G.I. Joe films that I've seen, this is the most forgettable. There you go. It took 8 years to make a film that is just fine. There you are. I apologize to all the G.I. Joe fans out there if you're mad at me. Maybe, as I said, I don't know much about G.I. Joe, so this might be the greatest Snake Eyes film of all time. And that's okay. We all like different things. If you really like this film, that's awesome. I don't hate it, but I can't get too behind it, unfortunately. And I may never speak of it again. Okay, there we are. Thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed. It's been a bit of a depressing one. But I will be back next week at least for another review. I will be checking out the new movie Jungle Cruise, which I'm very excited to see. And I hope it is as good as I want it to be. But we will have to wait and see. Until then, thank you for listening as always. Stay safe, everybody. I love and appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you again, always and forever. You've been spliced in later. Adios, muchachos. I'll catch you next time.